Happy Friday, Striver. I know you're entering this day with a great positive attitude because it's a great day for your Friday finishers. It's a day to finish off those deadlines or those tasks, those activities you promised yourself at the beginning of this week that you would finish by 5 p.m. tonight, Friday. I know you're going to get them done. You know, so often I look at that list of Friday finishers, which, as many of you know, I capture. So I just go to Growth Day in my app and I set up my plan for the week. I write down all the to-dos, the tasks, the deadlines for the week. Even if I already have things in the calendar, even if I've got, pieces of paper all over the place, I go capture it there because it's a record. And so I put my plan in there for my Friday finishers. And so often though, just like you, I can get discouraged. Today, as an example, that list is so friggin' long. I look at it and I think, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to get through this list? And then thank God, there's a little thing called logic jumps into my brain and says, well, one item at a time, kid. One item, one task, one thing at a time, kid. You know, the way through overwhelm is always that path, isn't it? One thing, one item at a time. And it's all those disciplined days in which we don't want to do it, but we still get that one task or that one priority checked off. Oh, it leads to momentum. Those Friday finishers, week after week after week, you get a few of them done or all of them done. That's the stuff that leads to progress. That's the stuff that subtly, quietly, humbly leads to greatness. That's today's topic, greatness. I really believe that so many people consume so much information through social media now. They think greatness is, the private jet or greatness is the fancy clothes or the award show or some other silly, I shouldn't say silly, some other materialistic type of thing. But when you think about the greats, the great people of your life, that's where I like people to start. When you think of greatness, don't think of the great leaders in history. Don't think of, the big fancy people you see on television or social media. Who are the greats in your life? The greats in your life. What was it about them? I think of Linda Ballou, my high school journalism teacher, the woman who kept me from dropping out of high school and taught me love for writing and news, or at least at the time, what journalism used to be, and photography, and who believed in my leadership ability and gave me a chance. She was somebody who let the kids run the journalism department, and she served as a guider, a mentor, a person to ask the questions, but also holding us to super high standards. She was, in my mind, greatness. My dad, in my mind, greatness. Someone who just humbly worked, dedicated, loyal, was there for his family, and just really worked with a smile on his face. There's no other way to say it. Just humbly and happily. But even as I ask you to contemplate who is great in your life, I know that maybe the best thing you can ever do is hop into your journal today after this daily fire and capture who were those people for you. The greats. And once you've done that, now you can move into that bigger thinking of, okay, what does greatness mean to you? If you had to define it, because the first thing you should know about greatness is it's always self-defined. No one's going to give that moniker to you, and you're going to believe it and feel it and take it in. I'm blessed to work with, people who pay me over 7 figures a year as a high performance coach who, many of them covers of magazines, billionaire tech owners, media moguls, and, impressive folks. But many of them are still striving. Many of them don't feel like they have quote unquote arrived. Many of them suffer still with imposter syndrome, can't believe they made it. And they make the covers of the magazines and they get the awards and the accolades and the money, and still they got to go home and think of, am I happy with myself? Am I living a great life by my own definitions, not by externalities? No one on Instagram is ever going to dub you great and you're going to believe it and feel fulfilled. And if it happens, it's gone in 72 hours when in 72 hours the bills are due, or the kids got to get fed, or you've got to deal with that conflict in your life. What does greatness mean to you? And if you don't have that determined yet, this is the day for you to open that growth day journal and start writing. Greatness to me in my life means ... and fill it in. Second idea about greatness I'd love to share with you today is that, I've met people who are extraordinarily happy with their lives. And as many of you know, I spent some time with people in their last days, hours, weeks alive. And in that work with hospice, in that work with even witnessing and working through family members who have passed away, the people who are happy with their lives, they tend to be generous and kind. They knew they were generous to others, and they knew they were kind to others. And they take solace in that. And the most beautiful thing is, at the end of their lives, they tend not to be alone because they were generous and kind with others. This might be a year that you flip the switch on what the media has indoctrinated all of us into these last few years. This, especially where I'm filming this nation supposedly of division where we all, have to argue and hate each other. Or on social media where you see all those tweet storms of just vitriol against the other party or against the other way of thinking. Maybe this is the year you go, you know what? I'm going to refresh my mind. I'm going to refresh my attitude, and I'm going to be generous and kind with other people. I'm not going to spread hate. I'm not going to judge groups of people, because there's very, very rarely a more ignorant step than judging an entire group of people about anything. Because even in an entire group of people, there's an incredible diversity of thinking and thought, even if it seems like they're a monolith. The truth is, each person can be persuaded. Each person has a life, a family, thoughts, hopes, dreams. Each person is unique, and each person can be generous and kind. And so why don't we give that assumption to people again? Third, greatness tends to have a lot to do with domain expertise. What that means is mastery. You mastered something. The greats in any given sport, they were at a higher level. They mastered something. That, the greats in business, there's a higher level of mastery or success. The greats, who really, impacted you, if it was a teacher, that was a great teacher. There's a domain expertise. And so maybe this year you say, these are the 3 critical skills I'm going to develop domain expertise in. I'm going to master these 3 things. So often people don't think about skill development when they really should have that as part of their plan. I always, in my first couple of sessions with a high performance client, I will show up and ask them to open up their calendar. And one of the things I do is I look through their calendar, and if I can't spot dedicated times blocked out on their calendar in which they're developing a skill, I know they tend to be playing at a lower level of their potential. Meaning, you have to dedicate time to developing something. Whatever the skill that is for you, you've got to practice or give it time that's blocked out on a recurrent basis to develop greater mastery at it. And then if you really want to become great at it, getting a lot of feedback and a lot of instruction and mentorship. Number 4, greatness, those who we look at now, the bigger picture, the cultural level, if you will. What's the thing about them? Well, they're leaders. They tend to be a leader in the construct in which they are an innovator. They've innovated in their time, or they're a movement maker. They started an important movement. They stood for something. They were a symbol of something. Now, can we all be culturally great figures that time and history and generations remember? Maybe not. But, as the founder of Growth Day here, I got to say, most of us really could if we decided to. And that is, you can be an incredible leader in your community, in your family, in your business, in your team, in your network. If you choose to do that, if you choose to ask, how can I change things? How can I make things better? How can I help others rise through these difficulties? How can I help unite people instead of divide people? How can I serve as a positive force? How can I be a leader? And then showing up day after day, demonstrating it, being a role model, challenging others to improve, encouraging others. Oh, all that stuff that we know we could do if we decided to do it. These are some of the elements of greatness, but I'll come right back to, what does it mean to you? What does greatness in your life or your career look like now? What does it look like in your family now? Describe it.